everyone, this is ScrapComputer here. In this video I'm going to cover why Tank Ekko is just so powerful and why he'll always be a meta pick even with the nerfs. I'll cover the abilities, how they relate to Tank Ekko and why they're strong with him. Then a summary of why it works so well as a tank. The abilities. Ekko's passive, Z-Drive Resonance. Damage. The base damage of this ability is good. For full Tank Ekko you need good base damage, so this is a nice kickstart. CC. This has got a really low cooldown, great slow. Now there's more to it than it's just good CC. It's good CC for Tank Ekko, you can apply very easily. AP Ekko has trouble auto attacking someone 3 times, for example, whereas Tank Ekko on the other hand can sit there and hammer away at people for relatively free and it can CC people down with ease. This means you get to apply the passive a lot more easily with Tank Ekko, which just makes it more effective. Sticky. The slow makes Ekko really sticky and really nice for chaining down for his other abilities as well. Movement speed. AP Ekko can get the movement speed too, of course, but with Tank Ekko, who's in the middle of tons of targets, he can keep on proccing it in multiple people over and over again, then keep reactivating it on multiple targets as a tank. AP Ekko has to maybe proc it once and get away, whereas Tank Ekko can keep on proccing it, which means you can use the movement speed aggressively, defensively, or somewhere in between. This is just an ability Tank Ekko has, which is really strong. Ekko's Q, Time Winder. Damage. Once again, the damage and the base damage on Time Winder is pretty substantial, which means without ability power Ekko still does some decent damage, especially if you get both aspects down. CC. With AP Ekko, you throw out your Q at max range and try and tag people, or hit the most valuable target you can when you're engaging to get the hell out of there. With Tank Ekko, you have another capability. It's got a very low cooldown, 60% AoE slow, which you can position more importantly easily. Remember, you're a tank, not like AP Ekko who has to throw it out, go in, run out, try and position it at a max range behind his tanks. You are the tank. You can rush in, you can position it very easily, run into the front face of an entire enemy team, then Q the entire team as well, which means positioning this ability is really simple. Sticky. Once again, matched with your passive, this makes Ekko sticky as hell. This can be used offensively, it can be used defensively, so it still means it helps him as a tank as well. So essentially you can use this really easily as you're in the front line, you can stack it on pretty much anyone you want, and if you do get a target, you can stick to them pretty simply. Ekko's W, Parallel Convergence. Engage. Simply put, Tank Ekko can engage with this ability, and of course he has no fear to run in with his W at any point. He can't be bursted or killed like AP Ekko. This basically means that this ability is in a far greater standing just because you're Tank Ekko, you don't really care if you get engaged on. Massive damage. This is the bread and butter of Tank Ekko. I can't emphasize how much damage this ability can do. You're doing 3% of your target's missing HP per auto attack if your enemy's below 30% HP. With your great base damage, and if you get a squishy, like early start to mid game, let's say, you can get them down to that and then proc this easily. Each auto attack on top of your passive hitting for 3 hits is going to be slowing your enemy by 60%, dealing 190 damage on the passive, and then 9% of the target's missing HP as an accumulative, which on a target below 30% HP can be 100 200 damage. And that's pretty decent. And if you're fighting yourself a frontliner who's really squishy, you have to remember percentage damage works better for the more healthy opponent is. So you've got a big fat cow and Alistair sitting there, you're doing around like 300 damage per auto attack and a 60% slow, which is 3 auto attacks and you're passive. The damage in this ability gets better and better when fighting other bruisers and tanks. The more HP they have, the more powerful this is. So this means that Tank Ekko top lane, for example, can actually fight bruisers and really assassinate them quite well. Because top lane is very much about chipping your enemy down, slowly getting them lower. And thankfully this means that Tank Ekko top actually can be a scary kill lane if you can get them low enough, just chipping them down with Time Winder and going in with W. Disruptive Slow and Stun. The W in itself just works pretty well with Tank Ekko. You just have to walk forward. It just works well on tanks in general. Use your W inside the entire enemy team and then just run into them with phase dive. If you've got an AoE stun or an AoE slow slowing the enemy backline, it just works well with a tank. It just naturally goes with Tank Ekko. Not really AP Ekko as much though. Easy to use. Now the main reason this is so powerful is because Tank Ekko just doesn't care if he gets burst or DPS. You have to remember, you're the tank, right? So he wants to soak up attention, soak up damage, be the main center star of the stage. Running into his W is just something AP Ekko has to be careful of. With Tank Ekko, it's a very easily used ability. It's more effective with Tank Ekko, and like all tanks, it just makes him very, very good in terms of disruption, tankiness, locking people down, zoning people. It's just a good ability overall. Ekko's E, Phase Dive. Damage. The base damage in this is okay, but I'm still going to count it. Mobile tank. How many tanks would you consider heavily mobile? I mean, there's, 4 or 5 decently mobile tanks, but with some CDR, basically Ekko becomes a very, very, very mobile champion. You can get your E to lower than a 5-second cooldown, and that's some crazy mobility for a tank to jump around. We've got the dive, then we've got the extended auto attack, which is a double set of mobility. This means that you can get to the back line, you can peel off in fights to go to the front or back, depending on where you want to go. It means you can proc your W off very, very easily. Overall, just if you acclimate everything, it just is very powerful. Dive and stick. This means a tank Ekko can dive and stick to target pretty easily. A tank that gets to the backline is always scary to deal with. Applies on hit effects. Tank Ekko very commonly gets Iceborne Gauntlet, and this, he pretty much always gets it. And this applied with Phase Dive even furthermore, adding another slow. So on hit effects are applied with your E essentially is what I'm saying here. Because Iceborne Gauntlet synergizes with this, you can do a really good job. Ekko's R/Ultimate Chrono Break. Tanky Demon. Now another amazing synergy point. AP Ekko basically uses this to get away and get a small amount of HP back on his pull, and he does rarely use it for offense, but it's pretty difficult to pull off. Tank Ekko gets 200 plus 200% of damage taken in the past 4 seconds. So say for example I do burst Ekko or do a large quantity of damage on him, a Vayne for example does get a focus. Because he has so much HP, he'll be gaining hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds HP back, unlike Ekko or AP Ekko, which is a lot squishier and doesn't have that kind of HP. A tank, regaining all of your burst just used through them is kind of scary to deal with, which means that Tank Ekko gets 20% of all the damage dealt. So if you did focus him, he's getting so much HP because he's tanky, rather than AP Ekko who's going to get a couple of thousand HP, maybe 2,000. It's not getting that much back. Tank Ekko just gets so much HP back from this ability due to his passive HP pull. It means he gets tons of free tank stats and additional HP return, which means the tankier he is, the more valuable this ability is overall, which means that doubly speaking, he is an even better tank than most people would even see on paper. Damage. The base damage in this ability is 450, that's a pretty substantial amount for a tank to be able to do on an AoE basis. It's a small but very important point. Ease of use. The reason the last point is so powerful is because Tank Ekko has an easy time using his ultimate. AP Ekko has trouble positioning, whereas Tank Ekko plays much like a bruiser, which means he'll be running into the front line, basically fighting on the spot, and his ultimate will follow him. Which means he can physically position the ultimate just by running at the enemy. He doesn't need to time it and get them to chase him or overextend the engage to ultimate backwards. As Tank Ekko just engage, and if you're fighting on the same spot or within a couple of feet, which is pretty common for a bruiser tank, means your ultimate will follow you and you'll be able to use it on the same spot. This means it's quite common for people to fight and clump around you, which means you can get better ultimates off and more easily. Summary. Crowd control. Tank Ekko has 3 soft CCs in the form of massive slows and 1 potential hard CC with his W, so as a tank he has enough CC to basically facilitate the role. He can apply 60% slow with his passive, throw out a 60% slow with the Q, and then if he decides to use his W, gets a 40% slow after that. Add this with the possibility of doing a 2-second stun, that's pretty crazy. Tank Ekko can chain CC as well, so it's actually pretty disgusting. On one target your Q will slow them, you proc your passive, it will slow them again, then you use your W to slow them and then stun them afterwards. And since all of these abilities work in combination together, it means you just basically get a shit ton of CC, which is always nice. The amount of disruption and CC lockdown versus one and many targets for a tank, as Ekko is, yeah, it's pretty effective, and overall it works very well with him. He has enough CC and enough powerful CC to be considered a true tank. Base damage. The base damage also on Tank Ekko is pretty crazy. It does scale off as you get mid to late game because people get tankier, but early to mid it can be powerful. But let's say late game. A level 18 you deal 190 damage with your passive, 380 for both aspects of your Q, 3% target HP per auto attack when they're below 30% HP, 140 damage for phase dive, and 450 for your ultimate. That's a total of 1160 damage from a tank. That's some of his AoE also. If you added in hitting 3 people with the AoE, which is pretty easy, that's a total of 2,820 damage. If you calculated what I just did there and hitting 2 other people with the AoE. Of course, resist would cut this down, but we see the damage ramp of Ekko, and that's not even me adding in the percentage HP damage. If you add in the percentage HP damage on your W, which means you're sticking to a target, you can add in hundreds and hundreds more to that. It means that Tank Ekko is actually pretty scary. He can blow people up, he can do damage, and that's the frightening thing about him. On top of this, your cooldowns are really low, which means you can easily get a double iteration of your abilities with a 5-second cooldown with at least even a bit of CDR, which means you can solo stick to a target and do even more damage that I've just mentioned. This includes for the CC point. Tanky. Your W and ultimate make you a tankier tank. W basically gives you 160 shield, which is on a relatively low cooldown, that's helpful. And then on top of that, your ultimate gives 20% of the damage done to your tank, and that is a lot, including of course the 200 HP, which he regains automatically with the activation of ultimate. It means he's got more tank time than he really should have, and he's a really effective tank. Sticky. I think Ekko is maybe one of the stickiest champions in the game, with a plethora of slows on one target, and with a lot of help or without massive CC and intervention on the enemy side, he can't really be peeled off singularly. It means if he catches a carry by himself or he gets to the backline, that's usually an all-in that I can't really get away with. Ease of use. Finally, a main point of Ekko and tank Ekko is also the ease of use. Your passive, easier to use, your Q, easier to use, your W, easier to use, your E, easier to use. And yes, you guessed it, with your ultimate, tank Ekko is also better with that as well, it's easier to use. His playstyle and kit basically generally want to go in for aggression. They want to facilitate aggression, they want to go in close combat and quarters. With AP Ekko, it is difficult to do that at the best of times. With tank Ekko, it's pretty much actively encouraged to go in and go ham and go crazy. Landing your entire kit is just easier with tank Ekko, which is the main reason why we see him in a lot of play. He can make full use of the kit rather than AP Ekko going at the side and just trying to do damage. And that's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like it, dislike it, dislike it. If you like the content, you can subscribe. If you think it's horrible and total crap, and I've done a really poor job editing, you can unsub. I'm totally fair. Also, guys, share it if you know anyone that does play tank Ekko, so maybe they get to the reason why they actually do it. But you know, guys, have a great day. Best luck on the rift. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much for watching.